Hello, this is World University and Schools News and Question and Answer on Monday, April, March 30th, 2026. And as we wait to see if people will join this open conversation, this opportunity to share your thinking about World University and School, share your questions, your answers about World University and School, building on MIT OpenCourseWare in 7 languages and planning to create major online universities in all 200 countries and in their main languages and build wiki schools for people-to-people teaching and learning, wiki teaching, wiki learning for speakers of all 7,159 known living languages, and potentially more languages. I'd like to share a little news with you in this WUAS weekly business meeting. So, dear World University and School community and networks, Universitians all, greetings, and I hope this email finds you well. How are you doing? I posit the reason that Google Street View with Time Slider seems to be developing relatively slowly as part of a realistic virtual Earth for STEM, e.g. at the Harbin Hot Springs Gatehouse in Google Maps, in Google Street View, and Harbin Hot Springs Gatehouse is in Northern California. And in Google Street View and Google Maps for Harbin Hot Springs Gatehouse, it's developing slowly, for example, in the years in particular of 2007, 2012, and 2024. You can go to Google Street View, Harbin Hot Springs Gatehouse, and go to those 3 years. And regarding coding for a realistic virtual Earth, with the all-important Google Time Slider with AI and ML. And see more about the Harbin Hot Springs Gatehouse and Harbin Hot Springs in the Twitter feed, twitter.com, x.com/Harbin book regarding my first book, Harbin Ethnography, which is titled Naked Harbin Ethnography. And as we build out this realistic virtual Earth for STEM at World University and School and potentially in a Grow with Google WUAS program, we also want to build it out at the G-Cell View level and the Google Molecule View level, etc. Because Google, and one of the reasons it may be developing slowly in the Harbin Hot Springs Gatehouse for the years 2007, 2012, and 2024, and all of the years in between, is because Google AI and machine learning and large language models are taking time to build. And particularly this realistic virtual Earth for STEM will be potentially helpful for university teaching hospitals too. And potentially there, Google Street View, Harbin Hot Springs Gatehouse is building out especially slowly because it takes time to wrangle the data sets, the code sources, the AI libraries, build out the information technology platforms with AI, Wikidata, Wikipedia's backend structured knowledge database in about 342 languages, I think, with AI and machine learning, or Wikidata 4, which can be used to create libraries for AI and machine learning. And all of this may be taking time to build out a realistic virtual Earth, a realistic virtual Harbin Hot Springs with Google Street View with Time Slider, taking time because aging reversal and extreme longevity genetic processes on the virtual side take time to structure code-wise, information technology-wise, with AI and machine learning and large language models. And for example, even particularly for specific conditions that medical doctor specialists would focus on, such as ears, nose, throat, or and brain strokes, aging reversal, developing those data sets, those code libraries, and such that they could be usable in a realistic virtual earth for medicine, for aging reversal of those conditions related to ear, nose, throat, and brain strokes, and all regarding potentially WUAS multimedia hospital room prototypes. So World University and School is seeking to build out WUAS multimedia hospital room prototypes for teaching hospitals around the US and in all 200 countries potentially, to work with and develop with and create with further in innovative ways, and particularly for aging reversal and extreme longevity, genetic drug, but also other kinds of extreme longevity and aging reversal, possibly digital processes for humans, potentially connected with our avatar agent electronic health records. So item B, how to make your voice heard and public at public, World University in the public, and public in the World University and School community among its networks, and for you universitians. And I ask as a presiding and recording clerk, in a sense, of World University and School, loosely with WUS weekly business meetings, loosely conducted in the manner of friends, Quakers. Item C, again, World University and School is seeking to accredit further. I received this helpful video from the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, with offices in the greater Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area, on my smartphone the other day. The title of this video is Your Voice, Making Public Comments That Matter in Federal Policy, dated February 24th, 2026, with Professor Matsudera, who was formerly the inaugural chief economist at the Department of Education. And it's an interview by a Middle States Commission on Higher Education interviewer, and that's the accrediting agency in the greater Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area that has, from which World University and School has the green light to proceed with accrediting. And so I'm writing further to Professor Matsudera, now at American University in the DC area, to follow up on even how to deploy the full federal toolkit, and see the MacArthur Foundation's urban.org, Urban Institute, set of tweets below regarding this phrase, deploy the full federal toolkit, which I learned of in an urban.org article that I got through a MacArthur Foundation email. And to potentially deploy the full federal toolkit to potentially begin to accredit free World University and School, first for students in the USA, but also for students in the other 200 countries. Just as students come from all over the world to go to MIT, partly because of its accreditation with NECHE, New England Commission on Higher Education, building on Creative Commons 4 licensed MIT OpenCourseWare, which says that, for example, World University and School can share MIT OpenCourseWare freely, adapt it, for example, by developing it with AI and machine learning, but 3, non-commercially. So we will be free to students as we seek potentially reimbursement from departments of education in all 50 US states and in all 200 countries. Thoughts, ideas, ways to proceed. Heather Perfetti, who's the president of Middle States Commission on Higher Education, accrediting agency, president of, or Professor Matsudera, formerly Deputy Undersecretary and inaugural Chief Economist at the U.S. Department of Education, and Chief Economist of the Council of Economic Advisors. WUS sought accreditation initially with Bureau for Private Postsecondary Education and WASC Senior, Western Association of Schools and Colleges Senior, in California as early as around 2012. And could World University and School even begin to matriculate students at accrediting World University and School this autumn, 2026? So in 4 months or so, possibly with a kind of provisional accreditation, as World University and School might matriculate initial students with provisional accreditation. And then after we graduate them, we would potentially become the first class, say after the first bachelor's degree class, a 4-year degree, we could become fully accredited. And perhaps we could incorporate the Middle States Commission on Higher Education process of self-study in this provisional accreditation process, which is perhaps a little bit different from possibly an inspection process that accrediting agencies may seek to do, to assure that the universities they are accrediting are meeting the standards of Middle States Commission on Higher Education. So item D, WUS continues to receive from Wikidata, Wikipedia, Phabricator developments there with implications for, say, WUS coding for all 7.9 billion people on the planet, seeking to create avatar agent electronic health records, also for 7.9 billion people on the planet, and to code for speakers of all 7,159 living languages, for example, on the Wikidata Phabricator global watch list. So we're seeking to develop lots of global lists, and glad to have Wikidata as our backend structured knowledge database for potentially developing in all 200 countries' main and official languages, but also potentially even developing in all 7,159 living languages. So item E, greetings from World University and School, building on CC4 licensed MIT OCW in 7 languages. And check out the courses at opencw.apprendi.org, translated courses, and at ocw.mit.edu, the latter of which are in English, and there are more than 2,500 courses. And greetings from World University and School, building on Wikipedia, Wikidata, in 342 active languages, approximately. And World University and School continues to plan free to students bachelor, PhD, law, MD, medical degrees online, IB high school or similar, potentially for 16 to 18-year-olds, and AAAS degrees, 2 years of an undergraduate degree, and master's degrees in each of all 200 countries and in their main languages. And as WUS proceeds with accreditation, and in a Grow with Google WUS program too. And to revolutionize education with machine learning and AI with World University in School. And see again the incredible Toolify AI WUAS article by Peter Norvig, Google AI Director, regarding World University and School building on MIT OpenCourseware in 7 languages and Wikidata as a backend structured knowledge database in about 342 languages. Revolutionizing education with machine learning and AI is its title. Hashtag World University in School, updated on March 2nd, 2024. And per this hashtag Toolify AI WUAS Article 2, World University in School is developing a realistic virtual Earth for STEM. And think in Google Street View with G Time Sliders, G Maps, and Gemini AI, and at the G cell view and G molecule view levels, as I touched on in the very beginning of this WUS weekly business meeting today, March 30th, 2026, and as STEM field sites and classrooms for new kinds of digital university learning experiences. Item G, how best to further develop WUS publishing from Google Street View with Time Slider, text in the sidebar, and in all 7,159 living languages. And for the next physical digital Harbin Hot Springs ethnographic book project I have planned too. Having taught at least one university from a textbook, WUS is also seeking to move beyond the textbook for our free online WUS degrees as we accredit. And again, the second wing of WUS, the WUS Corporation, Educational Services Stores, Academic Press at WUS, in 7,159 living languages with machine learning and machine translation and human translation, and even seeks to invent the book anew, publishing from Google Street View with hashtag text in the sidebar. So I don't think my second Harbin ethnographic book project will become a textbook for anthropology published out of Google Street View with Time Slider. But it could be a fascinating first book published out of Google Street View with Time Slider for textbooks to come into conversation with. World University and Schools Open World WS News and Business Meeting meets on Mondays at 10 a.m. It's 9 a.m. Mexico City time, 11 a.m. Mountain time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean time, 10:30 or 11:30 p.m. India time, 1 a.m. next day, Tuesday, Hong Kong time. But please check your time converter from any of your 24 time zones to join this open WS weekly business meeting with Zoom URL in the open WS weekly business meeting agenda and news below and in the following blog posts. So the agenda for today is in both blogs begins with Hindu Kush Mountains for Monday, March 30th, 2026. World University and School, so agenda item I, or item I in this introduction, World University and School is growing daily, and blog post by blog post too, and waiting, I think, for the California exempt filing process to advance, and the Candid GuideStar platform to develop too, and waiting for accreditation opportunities to further develop, and for money, and to grow an engaged and engaging research and wiki learning community with wiki teachers and wiki learners teaching and learning in these subjects. So the wiki page for subjects where you can now teach or also start a wiki subject URL is wiki.worlduniversityandschool.org/wiki/subjects with a capital S. It's first in English now, but planned in all 200 countries' main languages. And again, with wiki subjects you can create about what you love in all of this further, and both online and potentially in Canyon 94516 too. All the best, abolitionally, a best Steam Creative Commons licensed OpenCourseWare wiki at World Univ and SCH. Hashtag WUS abolition movement is growing to protect people. See the blog posts beginning with Eagle, Aquila, World University in both blogs, worlduniversityandschool.blogspot.com and scott-mccloud.blogspot.com. And in WUS seeking to code for all 7.9 billion people on the planet to facilitate wiki free universal education and potentially to end poverty worldwide. Yogically friendly NTF, NTQ, non-theist friend, non-theist Quaker, and Unitarian Universalist Church greetings. Kind regards, Scott G.K. McCloud, President at worlduniversityandschool.org. and also the founder, the CEO, and a professor at, and a presiding and recording clerk too at WUAS, loosely in the manner of unprogrammed NTF friends, Quakers. And the recording will be posted to our main current YouTube channel for World University and School, youtube.com/Scott McLeod World University /videos. So today we'll focus a little bit on how best to grow free Taiwan World University and School, which you can access eventually from the WUS Wiki page, hashtag WUS Wiki, the nation states Wiki subject page, from which each a major WUS research university will emerge in 200 countries and in their main languages. And see especially the blog post from in March of 2026, beginning Taiwan, Plei'on Formosana, in some of these regards. So, World University and School, first of two WUS wings, a 501c3 similar nonprofit, guidestar.org/profile 27-3105368. It's building on CC4 licensed best STEAM OpenCourseWare, such as MIT OpenCourseWare. It's also Wiki, and it's the first wing of World University and School. Its current beginning webpage is worlduniversityandschool.org. Agenda item 0, Shiprock, New Mexico. The recording for the Monday 3/23 blog post is, WS Weekly Business Meeting and WS News and Question and Answer. This kind of video minutes is posted in our main YouTube channel presently, youtube.com/Scott McLeod World University and School. Check it out further. Agenda item 1, Professor Matsudera, regarding your voice making public comments that matter in federal policy, February 24th, 2026, and the Middle States Commission on Higher Education and WS Accreditation, and President Heather Perfetti. How best to accredit further? Greetings further. Thanks again to whomever sent this helpful Middle States Commission on Higher Education video interview of you, Professor Matsudera, to my smartphone. As you know, World University and School, building on MIT OCW in 7 languages and Wiki 2, has neither the money nor the matriculated students to begin the pre-application process with the Middle States Commission on Higher Education and see the PS for the other steps involved. And in exploring this further in today's WUAS Weekly Business Meeting, WS News and Question and Answer, and innovating regarding deploying the full federal toolkit, and see agenda items 1 and 2, dated March 9th, 2026. Peneda Gerês is the beginning national park. Peneda Gerês National Park, Portugal, is are the first words you would search on in both blogs. Check this out. Here's the World University and School, Professor Matsudera and Heather Perfetti. Here's the here's the World University and School's beginning course catalog from some years ago, with free Creative Commons licensed MIT OCW and Yale OIC, Yale Open Yale courses. And it's something that we could develop further in this Google Docs as a iterating course catalog for students we eventually matriculate. How would this work with accreditation and regarding potentially the Department of Education also in the US federal government? And further, item B in this agenda item, here's BrightPass DC, which is a IT platform for college-bound students, of which my friend David Thurston is the executive director in the greater Washington, D.C. area, which could be a great source of WUS matriculating students this autumn 2026. Also, if WUS could somehow begin provisional accreditation with WASC Senior made possible. Provisional accreditation, which WASC Senior made possible in around 2012, the mid 2010s. Could we explore this potentially with Middle States Commission on Higher Education accreditation? Working with Bright Paths to matriculate college-bound students out of this platform, brightpathsdc.org. And might it be possible for the US federal government to take on an initial organizing or administrative role in World University and School and start with WUS accreditation with the Middle States Commission on Higher Education with offices in the greater Philadelphia, PA area? And if so, who is best to communicate further in these regards? And even regarding matriculating our first WUS students for a free WUS 2 years AA or AS, Associate of Arts, Associate of Science degree, or a 4 years bachelor's degree, beginning around Tuesday, September 1st, 2026. I'll await the next Middle States Commission on Higher Education video or similar to. Thanks, Professor Matsudera, Heather Perfetti, Siddhartha, Sid Mazumdar in Health and Human Services, all. And perhaps I received another Middle States Commission on Higher Education with a focus on self-study as part of the Middle States Commission on Higher Education accreditation process, which would be an interesting addition to a kind of provisional accreditation if Middle States Commission on Higher Education could begin to offer this. Read more about this in the blog post from March of 2026 in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com, Abolition Pictum Professor Matsudera. Thanks, friendly Quaker greetings, all the best, Scott G.K. McCloud. Agenda item 2, dated Wednesday, March 18th, 2026, in a blog post beginning Flowering Purple Sage, Salvia Luca Fila. Stanford Hoover's productivity gains and labor pains. What will AI do to jobs? On March 17th, 2026. It's about. Here's a letter I sent to many of the panelists on this Stanford Hoover Institute's 2-panel talk, again titled Productivity Gains and Labor Pains, What Will AI Do to Jobs? Dear Eric Brynjolfsson, Karen Kimbrough, Peter McCrory, Stephen Davis, James Manyika, and Julie Wong at Google, Gina Raimondo, and Rishi Sunak, Condoleezza Rice, and please forward to Gina Raimondo and Condoleezza Rice, whose emails I couldn't find. Thanks so much for your outstanding Stanford Hoover productivity gains and labor pains. What will AI do to jobs? And great to talk with you briefly. At its close, James Manyika, a senior vice president at Google, and MP, Member of Parliament, Rishi Sunak, also the 57th Prime Minister of Great Britain. I'm writing to follow up James Manyika and Julie Wong, about developing World University and School in a #GrowWithGoogle WUS program in all 7,159 known living languages, and building out related data sources and code bases for AI and ML productivity, and Rishi about growing Great Britain World University and School with AI and teaching AI productivity, and with free online WUS degrees, bachelor, PhD, law, MD, IB high school, similar AAAS and master's degrees from students' homes in Great Britain. And C, Please see Peter Norvig's incredible Toolify AI WS article, Revolutionizing Education with Machine Learning and AI. Here is an initial Gemini AI summary of the great Stanford Hoover Institute panel on March 17th, 2026. Check out this Gemini AI summary. And here are free World University and School, about free wiki World University and School building on MIT, OCW, and 7 languages. See the courses in all 6 initial languages currently at opencw.aprende.org/courses/translated-courses. World University and School is developing 200 major free online WUS universities and in countries' main and official languages from nation states for online free degrees. And potentially also with law schools. But MIT has, and medical schools. But MIT has neither a law school nor a medical school. So WUS will have to develop the law and medical open courseware, and perhaps in collaboration with Stanford Law Codex and Stanford Medicine. World University and School is also developing wiki schools for speakers of 7,159 living languages, and from there, seeking to code for most of all 7.9 billion people on the planet to facilitate free universal education and potentially to end poverty worldwide also by seeking to distribute Stanford MindPi cryptocurrency, with which WUS has some partnering emails from you at World University and School, each a Wikidata PIN number, all 7.9 billion people. What a trove of data generation for AI productivity gains will be with this global list at you at World University, wiki.worlduniversityandschool.org/wiki/you at World University. In addition, and this is to the panelists at the Stanford Hoover Institute on AI productivity and jobs. In addition, WUS seeks to develop a realistic virtual Earth for everything, #for everything, and think Google Street View with Time Slider, Maps, TensorFlow AI, Gemini AI, and at the G-cell view and G-molecule view levels in each of all 200 countries. And, for example, for a realistic virtual Earth for history and for AI productivity gains, and where both wings of WUS seek to hire 2.5 million people, slightly more than Walmart, which is in about 19 out of 200 countries. And for the academic press wing in 7,159 living languages with AI and ML translation too. And the physical digital WUS educational services stores for books, computers, robotics, hospital technologies, groceries, for AI productivity and growing careers too. And see the PPPS. Over the next 50 to 100 years, we seek to hire these 2.5 million people. And in designing AI productivity for the future, and also with avatar agent electronic health records as #digital twin organisms, and for all 7.9 billion people, developing from Little Pegman in G Street View, and to facilitate also a realistic virtual Earth for aging reversal, #realistic virtual Earth for extreme longevity, #realistic virtual Earth for genetics, and a realistic virtual Earth for synthetic biology. And see the hashtags on #Twitter X and #LinkedIn. And coming into conversation with Harvard and MIT professor of genetics George Church's heralding of aging reversal genetics, and all regarding new ideas too for artificial intelligence productivity and approaches to studying this and building out data sets and code sources. Both of WUS's wings are planned in 200 countries for speakers of all 7,159 living languages. And as WUS seeks to code for all 7.9 billion people for free universal education and to end poverty potentially by distributing Pi cryptocurrency to many of these, especially, say, the poorest billion people on the planet. Thanks for your outstanding Stanford Hoover productivity gains and labor pains. What will AI do to jobs? All the best, more later, and thanks so much. 200 countries, each a major online WUS university from nation states, the wiki subject page, the main wiki subject page at World University and School, nation states, and wiki schools for people-to-people teaching and learning in 7,159 living languages, and for AI productivity too, from languages, wiki.worlduniversityandschool.org/wiki/languages. Each language, all 7,000 languages, will become a wiki school from here potentially. And also building out from you at World University for potentially for all 7.9 billion people. And with artificial intelligence, and see the artificial intelligence wiki subject page at World University and School, where you can teach by adding a resource you appreciate, or teaching to your web camera, or learn as well. wiki.worlduniversityandschool.org/wiki/artificial intelligence. And see the MIT OpenCourseWare here, eventually for credit toward free online WUS degrees. And you can get to the artificial intelligence page and all the other wiki subject pages I mentioned above from the subjects page at World University and School. P.S. Dear Eric Brynjolfsson, Karen Kimbrough, these are all hashtags too on Twitter, X, and LinkedIn. Dear hashtag Eric Brynjolfsson, hashtag Karen Kimbrough, hashtag Peter McCrory, hashtag Stephen J. Davis Stanford, hashtag James Manyika, hashtag Gina Raimondo, hashtag Rishi Sunak, hashtag Condoleezza Rice. Thanks much for the outstanding hashtag Stanford Hoover, productivity gains and labor pains. Hashtag what will AI do to jobs? See these Twitter posts, and all in the blog post beginning flowering purple sage, Salvia leucophilia. I'm in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com/03/flowering-purple-sage-salvia-leucophilia.html. Agenda item 3, in a blog post beginning hibiscus sabdarifa from Thursday, March 19th, 2026. What will youth vaccines be made up of initially? Vaccines that might be able to make us younger. What will youth vaccines be made up initially? For example, vaccines that could reverse organs in an 80-year-old person to a 30-year-old person, and in avatar agent electronic health records, and as hashtag digital twin organisms, especially with hashtag realistic virtual earth for yoga asana. In one iterating hashtag realistic virtual earth, and a hashtag realistic virtual earth for vaccines. I asked this also of Gemini, and have explored this further in the blog post beginning hibiscus sabdarifa in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com. Agenda item 4, also from the blog post beginning hibiscus sabdarifa. Huge development, hashtag, or quote, building towards hashtag virtual organism. This is a post, a Twitter post that George Church retweeted, and it's an article about building towards the virtual organism. A company named Manifold collaborates with leading global pharmaceutical partners to accelerate translation of organism scale biology into meaningful clinical impact. How to develop with avatar agent electronic health records, hashtag digital twin organisms. in a hashtag realistic virtual earth. Retweeting, re-Xing George Church. The title of the article is Manifold Bio Demonstrates Million-Scale Experimental Validation of AI-Driven Protein Binder Design with NVIDIA, dated March 16th, 2026. Read more about it in the blog post beginning Hibiscus sabdariffa. Agenda item 5. Hibiscus sabdariffa. Property deed for 670 Ridgecrest, Canyon, California, 94516 in Contra Costa County. Questions with blockchain and with zoning for farming, agriculture in the state of California. Read more about these questions in the same blog post, Hibiscus sabdariffa, in my blog, Scott-McCloud. And in some of these regards, how is the blockchain ledger for real estate at potentially the state of California level, also potentially with the Contra Costa level, Contra Costa County level, and also in the US federal government? How are the blockchain ledgers for real estate all developing? And I asked this of Gemini AI, and one of the things it said was trust protocols or trust standards are being developed for all these blockchain ledgers. Agenda item 6. Lotus Hosakia, Fomonissima, Gracilis. Restorative yoga class on Saturdays, and as we may live to 150 and well beyond, and even with eventually youth vaccines that could reverse organs in an 80-year-old to a 30-year-old, and read on. Dear Dick Robb, MD, possibly posthumously, also a professor in Harvard Medical School, Chris Michaels, Ann Brown, Alden Briscoe, George and Maitreyi, both professors in Harvard Medical School too, Ma Janie, my mother, Peter Norvig, Stanford AI, Marlene Way, author of the Harvard Medical School Guide to Yoga, which I just returned to the public library. And might a second edition be possible? And yoga brainstorming with yogis Victor and Angela helping write this, albeit unlikely, I posit. Dorcha van Kooten, a daughter of Victor van Kooten in the Netherlands. Victor and Angela are often based in Greece. How would you say your father Victor and Angela teach consciousness or awareness or the inner body? And regarding the 8 limbs of yoga, yogis and yoginis all. Number of parts to this email about this restorative yoga class, and as we may live to 150 and well beyond. Yoga greetings. How are you all? And how are your regenerative yoga explorations going? And especially on Saturdays at around 8 a.m. Pacific time. We may all be able to get together in a Zoom call, yoga hall, in the not too distant future, and for yoga exploration conversations. And as we may live to 150 and well beyond, with genetic drug therapies emerging, and even with eventually youth vaccines that could reverse organs in an 80-year-old to a 30-year-old. Added last week's restorative yoga explorations here to the blog post beginning Sacred Lotus Nolumbo Nucifera on Thursday, 3/12/26, for your yoga adventuring. Would you like to explore these Angela Farmer and yoga asana explorations in the videos to the left on Saturday upcoming? And say the second 4 of this group of 8 videos on Angela's webpage here, angela-victor.com/WHO/Angela. Agenda item C1. I'm going to move to the science part of this. So what will youth vaccines be made up of initially? Vaccines that could reverse organs in an 80-year-old to a 30-year-old, and in avatar agent electronic health records and digital twin organisms, and especially with a realistic virtual earth for yoga asana and a realistic virtual earth for yoga in one iterating realistic virtual earth and a realistic virtual earth vaccines. Some incredible Gemini and AI responses below and here in the blog post beginning hibiscus sabdarifa. So what Gemini AI said to this question about hang on. I'm not finding right now what Gemini AI said to that question, so I'm going to move on. Agenda item 8. Searched on American Indian 8 limbs of yoga and American Indian 8 limbs of yoga Scott McCloud with a little Native American background, I think, and found some interesting responses in the blog post Marble Mountain Wilderness, California, in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com. See also the yoga notations on my website, scottmccloud.com/yoga notations.html. And in the blog post beginning Coastal Lotus, Axmispan Maritimus, in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com. So I'm moving to the second wing of World University and School, the WUS Corporation wing, in the remaining 12 minutes or so. The second of 2 WUS wings, a for-profit general stock company legal entity in the state of California, the WUS Corporation, WUS Press, with an academic press plan in 7,159 living languages and with machine learning. And see the very beginning webpage for this at worlduniversityandschool.org/academicpress.html. Agenda item A, regarding a book that the WUS Press has published, To the Dance or the Pools, virtually, how different it is to soak at Harbin Hot Springs than to realize it in virtual reality. 2019 book of poetry at the WUS Press. Correspondence is below. I've had a correspondence with someone in Portugal, and it created a sort of background for World University and School, the WUS Press's book, this particular book, To the Dance of the Pools, in interesting ways for potentially developing our books in the future in a variety of ways. Agenda item B. How best to grow the WUS educational services stores in India and Pakistan for groceries, for example, fruits, grains, vegetables, legumes, beyond books, computers, robotics, hospital technologies. And I'm thinking of a modified Walmart product line where Walmart is in India, but not in Pakistan, apparently. And could the WUS educational services stores grow both a store within a store model with Walmart in India, for example, in Best Prices Wholesale Club, which is a Walmart store subsidiary, I think, in India, and has 36 locations in India. And for example, for books, computers, robotics, groceries, etc. But how could World University and School grow independently in Pakistan, the WUS educational services stores, and potentially with yoga products too? World University and School has this WUS business meeting process, and the label for that in the World University and School blog is business meeting, loosely conducted in the manner of unprogrammed NTF friends Quakers, where yoga, for example, doesn't really have such a business meeting process. But we friends Quakers do have this process, and with which to develop potentially the WUS educational services stores. Thoughts? agenda item C. And how best can the WES bookstores planned in all 22 scheduled languages in India, for example, carry the following books? For example, Gachar Gochar by Vivek Shanbag, written in the Kannada language, spoken primarily in the South Indian state of Karnataka, and which language has over 50 million speakers. Along with planning for the WUS educational services stores to carry groceries, and especially fruits, grains, vegetables, and legumes, and robotics, and computers, and hospital technologies, and more. So what are in some of these regards, and possibly regarding carrying books, in India, World University and School WS educational stores, what are 10 great Indian novels, possibly comic, along the lines of Hullabaloo in the Guava Orchard? I asked Gemini AI and Google AI, and I got an amazing list. This could be a fascinating resource with which to build a book store, book inventory, even for printing on demand from the WS Educational Services stores in India, in all 22 scheduled languages in India, and even in all 425 living languages. So that's the news and question and answer for the WS Weekly Business Meeting, WS News and Question and Answer on Monday, March 30th, 2026. I'll post a recording of this to the WS current active YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scott McLeod World University, as well as to the 2 blog posts for today, which are begin with the words Karakoram Mountains, Kashmir, and also to the main Twitter feeds for World University and School, Twitter x.com/WORLD UNIVANDSCH, twitter.com/WUAS Press, and also to the main LinkedIn pages for World University and School. So thank you. If you have questions, please email me at Scott McLeod, SGKMACLEOD@worlduniversityandschool.org. And until next week, April 6th, 2026, April 6th, 2026 at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. I think it's 11:30 p.m. or 10:30 p.m. India time, 1 p.m., 1 a.m. the next day, Hong Kong time. But please check your time converter. WorldUniversityandSchool.org is the main current homepage for World University, and check out the Academic Press, WS Educational Services stores as well. Until next time, bye for now.